It's been a while. Let's catch up. Like I said in the beginning, my name is James Hernandez, and currently I run a $1 million online coaching business with my partner Alexis. And I want to take us back to way before this, so you guys have a full understanding about what got me here in this position and some of the major key takeaways that I've had in my life and to get me up to this point. Some of you guys who may see this may know me, may have known me at another time in my life in the past. So I thought it's only fair to take this opportunity to catch you guys up to speed as far as what I've been up to lately in the last year and a half to present time, the last couple months, and some of the things that I've learned along the way here. Yes, you caught me. This is my first YouTube video I've made in a while. We'll talk about the last time I made a YouTube video in a minute here. Forgive me if it's a little bit out of touch with how things are supposed to go, what things are supposed to look like. I don't really have any plans for this. I'm gonna go for as long as I feel like is necessary to fully understand my situation, with the hopes that you enjoy this video, even if it's just one person who maybe is impacted by this video, and it's one person who can take along on my journey. I think that'd be great. My plan and goal and hope is that this is the start of a very fruitful relationship with you and me on the other side of the screen, as we're able to grow and learn together, and I can show you and take you with me as I progress through life as a currently 23-year-old man trying to make his way through the world. Now, it hasn't always been sunshine and rainbows, and to be honest with you, still isn't sunshine and rainbows many days of the week. But I also am going to be honest with you guys. I don't want this to be just another rags to riches story, because it's definitely not. My life has not been the worst life ever. I'm very grateful for lots of the things that have happened in my life and in my career. But at the same time, obviously things could have gone very differently for me at very different points. I wasn't always as fortunate to have the level-headedness and the clear foresight that I have now. So I'm going to explain some of the key decision-making processes that I had to make, and some of the key deciding factors in my life that have put me on track to what I think is going to be a successful young individual. And I think that in the grand scheme of things, where I'm at currently would maybe be looked upon as not the most successful, which I can understand. I don't think it is either. But I also do have to give myself grace and understand that I've come a long way. It's been a long journey, and I think there may be some people out there who I can help get in this position as well. The main goal is obviously entertainment. Unless you're a realtor, I don't have anything to sell you. So kick your feet up, hang out for a little while. As always, you know the drill, guys. Feel free to leave comments. I have my Instagram down below as well. You're more than welcome to follow on there if you so please, just to keep in touch with me and my life a little bit more. So let's kick things back to several years ago, 23 years ago to be exact. It's almost my birthday. I'm almost 24 years old. 24 years of life on this planet is something that is special, and I think that I'm grateful to be able to have the experiences that I've had as a 24-year-old. Growing up, I had one parent around at a time. I'm a product of divorced parents, which is okay. I actually think it's super beneficial to my story and to part of my success. I was born in California, and shortly after that, my mom and dad decided to split up, which again, I'll get to why I think that's probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me in a bit here. After that, I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, where I currently live, and the rest is history. Up until we get around to high school, and I find something called entrepreneurship. Now guys, let me tell you a little something else about me. I'm extremely ADHD, extremely dyslexic, and as you can imagine, a very bad student. Throughout my entire course of middle school and high school, I always knew that I don't want to do this anymore. I do not want to do school. I don't want to go the traditional route. I will pull my hair out if I have to sit through more classes. And guys, I am not what you would consider a super smart individual. I am smart in certain tasks, but when it comes to reading, math, things like that, I am one step away from the special help classes. So I grew up in private school my entire life, Catholic private school at that, which is a whole nother story. I've talked about my experience that in another video, I'm sure a little more in depth. But they had extremely strict rules for me. This is actually the shortest my hair has ever been. I always wanted long hair, but I had to have it chopped off and for school. And so that is kind of where like the first going against the grain for me, I think, kind of started, was because I didn't really fit in with those roles either. And something that was interesting, I grew up in a family of all women as well. It's only me and my other cousin. At the time, I do have a younger cousin now, but he's like 9 years old. But at the time that I was in middle school and high school, I only had one other male cousin, and he lived in Louisiana. So I didn't have a lot of time with him, unfortunately. And other than that, all I had was my cousin's uncle and my grandfather until he passed away. It was pretty much my only male figures who was with me majority of the year. Now, I did get to see my dad, let's call it 3 to 4 months out of the year. But again, through the most pivotal moments, unfortunately, it was mostly just me and my mom, as in, we're talking high school, going out with girls, failing classes, making major decisions. It was mostly with my mom. And growing up, I grew up in a family, again, of all women. I have lots of cousins. I am an only child, but I have lots of female cousins, and obviously growing up with my mom, I think I learned to adapt a little bit more to like the female character. And so because of that, I didn't have a lot of male friends in high school. That's what I'm trying to say. I mostly had female friends in high school, which to this point has still led me in a position where I feel like I have a hard time fitting in with a lot of different people, because I'm just wired a little bit differently, especially when it comes to men and males, leading me up to one of the first major points in my life where I realized that things aren't exactly sweet all the time. In middle school, one of the main things was me just going against the grain all the time. Again, it was like really hard classes. I'll say this still, like the classes I took in middle school were the hardest classes I've ever taken, still to this day. And so that really definitely taught me a work ethic. But what I learned, which I think is probably one of my greatest skills, which I would encourage every single person who's watching this video, if you want to be successful in entrepreneurship and you want to be successful doing your own thing, to take on, is learning to do multiple tasks at one time and do a task very efficiently. Of course, efficient doesn't actually correspond with what they want you to do at school. When I say efficiently, it means if you can do something quicker with AI now, if you do something quicker by delegating it out, if you can do something faster by maybe not following all the rules to it, that is how I literally got through all of my educational, all my time in the educational system, was learning how to be more efficient when it comes to getting my assignments done. I would get an assignment and then I would find every 30 seconds I could to work on that assignment until the end of the day was over, because, of course, why? I didn't want to do homework. No one wanted to do homework. So going into a super hyper competitive and hyper educational school at a young age with someone who has dyslexia and ADHD, what it taught me to really do was to focus in on multiple different tasks at one time, which I think is a superpower of people with ADHD, if you know what I'm talking about. If you can actually sit down to do a task, I think that's a superpower. And I'll actually talk to you about how I cured my ADHD as well towards the end of the video. And that was one of the first things that I learned, now looking back on it, is that I actually learned how to take a task and get it done super quickly and super efficiently, which has obviously been part of the reason for my success in business. Now, I had lots of friends in middle school. One of my only and best male friends, actually, we like ran the school, I felt like, in middle school. Coming into 8th grade, I had a feeling that things were going to change. I got into band. He was into more sports kind of stuff, and so we already kind of started hanging out with different people because of that. And when things came around and I was getting ready to apply for high schools, I remember I had a conversation with my mom, and she said, you may not be able to get into the high school that your best friend wants to get into, or the high school that you want to go play band in, because I just couldn't really get my shit together. Now, I got good grades. I got A's and B's. But what she saw on the other side of it was a little bit more undisciplined. Like, I would come home and I would never have any homework to do, right? Because I already did it. I wouldn't study for tests. If she didn't sit down there, and I will give my mom credit for this, if she didn't sit down there and make me study and study with me, I wouldn't have studied. Like, my head was just not in the game at all, guys. You don't understand. Like, there was not a single part of me or a single part of my body that could sit down and do homework. I was so hyperactive. I just couldn't do it. And so my mother used to have to literally sit downstairs with me till some mornings, so 1, 2 in the morning, and do my homework with me, until I learned how to obviously do it at a high level in school. And I remember, her kind of crying about that and me kind of crying about that, because I was like, well, shit, I really want to go to this high school where my best friend is going, and also where I want to play band, where my band director is, who I really loved at the time. But that may not be the case. Spoiler alert, I got into the high school. Like I said, I made good grades. It just was one of those moments, and I'm sure maybe you guys have felt this before, where things just feel larger than life. Like, the decisions and the conversations, they feel like heavier than they actually are. And I think that's why they were so emotional, because, again, if my mom didn't sit down there and actually fill out the high school application for me, I wouldn't have gone to high school. I'm 100% convinced of that. And that is a trend that you'll continue to see throughout my high school career. So I go to high school, I go to extremely, again, high education, private Catholic school. Again, as a rebel, I'm someone who wants to go against the grain, extremely ADHD, extremely dyslexic. I learn differently than other people. I can't sit in a classroom for that long. And I go in, I join the band, I make a couple new friends, but again, I'm trying to figure out who I like and who I don't like. And my best friend at the time joins the sports team, and of course, we stopped hanging out a little bit less and whatnot. And I remember one point in my life specifically that really changed and really made me feel like that I'm not going to ever find a group of people who I really relate to and who I can stick around, is that I went to go eat lunch with my best friend, and I went to sit down at the lunch table. This was probably, halfway through the first freshman year or whatever. And one of the kids sitting next to him, who was on the sports team, actually looked me in the face and said, "You can't sit here with us," and told me to get out and get out of the table. And I remember kind of looking at my friend, and he didn't say anything. And that was one of those moments where I was like, okay, holy shit, like, people change and people really will switch up on you. And guys, like, I'll fast forward really quick here. Me and this friend have made up. We're actually very good friends now. And we are very much on the same page and path, which I think is great, which is another story for another time about forgiveness and second chances. But at the time, that really rocked my world. So I was like, wow, this is one of my only male friends, and also one of my only friends as a freshman in high school. And I just got pretty much told that I can't sit with him. And so naturally, we kind of drifted apart. And it was at this point where I started feeling a little bit like I don't fit in at school. I'm not really someone who is super, super social. Like, I had my 2 or 3 really close friends. But other than that, I would just kind of be alone most of the time in classes. And I had my group of people, of course, who I'd eat lunch with. Like, I never ate lunch alone. But I don't know if maybe some of you guys can relate to this, where it's just kind of like, you're just kind of with them, but it's not like a deep bond or like a deep relationship as much as I guess it can be in high school. So it wasn't like we were best friends. I never went over to these people's houses. They never came over to my house. Like, we never did anything outside of the school. But that's kind of what it was. Like, we were just like high school friends, and it was very service level. And I remember at one point in my sophomore year, a thing called, maybe you guys have heard of it. I don't know if I have one at my desk or not. I don't think I do. I'm not sure if maybe you guys have heard of this or not, but it's called a fidget spinner. So fidget spinners came out my sophomore year, and they were all the rage, right? If you were around during that era, which would have been 2017, 2018, oh my God, everyone had a fidget spinner. It clicked to me in my head for a second that everyone wants a fidget spinner. And at the time, I was very much into doing crafts, art, stuff like that. Not in the traditional sense of like painting on canvas, but I was very much into like building Legos, building like skateboard ramps. At this point, I was starting to get into skateboarding. I was super big into just like building like shit. And so I had this idea. I was like, okay, everybody wants fidget spinners and they're relatively cheap. So what if I just bought a lot of fidget spinners and like painted them? And what I used to do is kind of like drizzle paint on them, and then I would sell them at school. And this would mark, probably 2018, would mark where my first business started. Now, a lot of people would be like, well, that's not a business. But I think in my eyes, it was. I had a mission to build custom fidget spinners for people and sell them for profit. So what I did is I bought like 15, 20 fidget spinners, and I took pictures of them on my Snapchat and put them all on my Snapchat. I was like, I think they were like, maybe $10, and they maybe cost me $2 a pop. So I was making maybe $7 or so on them. And I would just kind of like drizzle paint on them and spray paint them. I remember I had 3 customers, and then fidget spinners died out. So that was one of my first businesses, but what that kind of taught me is like, okay, cool. Like I literally just made some money off of this thing. And over the summers with my dad, he always made me work. Like a lot of kids, I think, got to have this summer of like just screwing off and just doing whatever they wanted to. And I had my fair share of relaxation as well, but my dad always made me work. Again, I would spend my summers with my dad. He actually sat me down and taught me a lot about building spreadsheets and things like that, which has been super pivotal to my success now as well. And he said, okay, you're gonna make a spreadsheet of 20 skateboarding companies, because at this point I was really into skateboarding. Skateboarding was my shit. Skateboarding was my thing. You're gonna find a list of 20, 40, 50 skateboarding companies. You're gonna have the emails on the spreadsheet. You're gonna email every single one of them and ask for a job. I was in California where my dad lives, so I was like, okay, cool. Like there's tons of skateboarding companies out here. Did that. I got 2 jobs at 2 skateboard companies, and that was great. I ended up working for one of the skateboard companies as like a tech who would put the skateboards together for like prepackaged skateboards. And then I eventually kind of told them, I was like, hey, look, like I'm pretty decent at skateboarding. Like if you want, I can just take videos and photos of me riding your skateboards and you use that as marketing. And eventually they're like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. And so what I did is I transitioned out of manual labor for $16 an hour, because it was California minimum wage, $16 an hour there, to actually just going in at like 7 in the morning. And then what I would do is I would just skateboard all day, which was what I love to do anyway. And that was one of those kind of like second businessy kind of things where it was like, okay, I'm a skateboarder and I'm making money skateboarding, which is what I love to do, and people are just paying me to do it. So that whole summer I skateboarded so much, which I'm 100% gonna make a video about why skateboarding taught me to push through failure, and is probably one of the number one things that has led to my success now, learning to skate. I skated that whole entire summer so much. I remember I have all these clips. I had friends in California who would skateboard with me, who lived in the neighborhood, and I stay in touch with some of those guys still. And I skateboarded the entire summer until the last day, the very last day of summer vacation. I tore my meniscus skateboarding. I was skateboarding down, like if any of you guys are skateboarders, I'll skate down like a hubba, and I went to go jump on it, and I slipped backwards off my board, and I accidentally put my foot back onto the board on top of the hubba and fell probably like 6 feet to the ground and tore my meniscus. Going into my senior year, which was obviously not the best, because senior year is supposed to be like, yippee, yay, let's have fun, and I was in a wheelchair, so that wasn't great. Through senior year, I couldn't skateboard, obviously. So what did I get super into? I got really into fingerboarding, which I still am. I fingerboard all the time. Some people may call this weird or dorky or whatever, but it's just one of my like little side hobbies, and I think it's super fun. At this point, I was really good friends with another one of my buddies, Sage, and he was really into cars, and that really fascinated me with the whole car space and world. That really just gripped me immediately. Remember, like I'm in a wheelchair, I can't skate. All I can do is fingerboard. And for 6 months, I couldn't skate or walk directly on that leg. I had to have crutches. Going into my senior year again, guys, and this was 2019, starting 2020, so you can imagine where this story's about to go in a second. He got me really into cars, and I mean like addicted immediately to cars. I loved everything about them. I wanted to work on them, I wanted to build them, but the problem is that I had a pretty shitty car at the time, and so there was no fun in building that car because it was like nothing, right? And so my mom had just bought a new car, and so I begged her pretty please to let me do stuff for her car, which she eventually caved in and said yes. And then I ended up modifying the fuck out of that car. During this time, I had a friend who would always sit in math class, and he'd like go like this with his nose, and he'd be like, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. And for his birthday, I made him a sticker that said IDGAS, which was I don't give a shit. Because he used to say it all the time, bro. Like we'd say something, he'd be like, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. And so we made him a sticker for his car. He was into cars too. And me and Sage made him a sticker, and it said IDGAS. And we were like, wow at it, because you couldn't just order one. You had to order like a pack of 5. So, okay, we'll order a pack of 5 and we'll all just rock them on our cars. IDGAS. I don't give a shit crew. And all of our cars were kind of modified. They were loud, they were lowered, they had wheels. One cool shit as seniors in high school. Right towards the last couple of months of high school that I had, until COVID hit, of course, a couple of car guys in the school started coming up to me and asking like, hey, what's this whole IDGAS thing? Like, can I get a sticker of it? And so light bulb clicked number 3 for when my fidget spinners, when I was selling fidget spinners, was, yeah, why don't I buy these stickers at $2.50 a pop and then sell them for $5? So that's exactly what I did. I bought these IDGAS decals for $2.75 and I started selling them for $5. And this was my first really real business that I had. At the time, me and Sage worked at a restaurant, and I remember these moments of clarity and these moments of like, oh, you know what I'm talking about? Come to you at the most random times. Usually it's in the shower, but for some reason we just got off work at the restaurant and we're sitting in the car, and I'm like, dude, like, there's all these people who are asking us for IDGAS stickers at school. Imagine we just made an Instagram account of this and we posted our cars and we posted other people's cars and then we just sold them everywhere online. Like, think about how much freaking money we'd make, dude. Because we're slaving away at a restaurant right now, getting off at midnight, and we have to go to school at 7 in the morning tomorrow. Like, why don't we just make money selling these stickers instead of doing this shit? And Sage was like, yeah, let's do it. And we called our buddy who it was themed after, the same buddy who was always saying, I don't give a shit. And he said, no. He said, no one will buy them. That's not gonna work. He said, guys, that's kind of a stupid idea. Let's just leave it to be us. No need to bring anybody else into it. And my buddy Sage bought into that, and he said, yeah, no, you're right. Probably no one's gonna buy it. And that was not the first time, but a very blatant display of doubt that an idea that I had could work. I've always had people who doubted my abilities and people who doubted my skill sets, even in my direct close family. Being an ADHD, dyslexic, super hyperactive kid who did not apply himself for school, you can imagine. Of course, I had people who doubted. At this point in senior year, I had dropped out of band because I wanted to do only skateboarding still, and I tore my meniscus doing that. The one thing that I wanted to do. At this point, no longer a stranger to doubt. While they kind of thought, hey, maybe this won't work, I thought, you know what? No, fuck that. And when we hung up the phone, I looked at Sage and I said, no, man, we got this. Like, we got to at least try this. I'm going to at least order a little bit of stickers. I'm going to make an Instagram. And I went home that night and I made an Instagram account. I took immediate action and I made an Instagram account, IDGAS Crew on Instagram. And it wasn't until 3 to 4 weeks after that I actually posted my first video, because I didn't tell anybody that I made that Instagram account, because I locked it in and I said, I want to make sure I have this account because I'm still going to do this either way. Later down the road, Sage turned around to it, ended up posting videos of our cars, ended up going to car meets. I would just start giving out free stickers to cool cars who I saw on the street. We'd go to like the grocery store, and if there was a modified car in the parking lot, I'd put one of the stickers under the windshield and I'd write on the back of it like, love your car, give us a follow at IDGAS Crew. And it became like a literally like a crew, like Fast and Furious family type shit of a group of modified cars running around Nashville. And this grew and spiraled honestly way quicker than I even thought it ever would have, to the point where I have a crew of like 5 or 6 really core individuals, and we're posting consistently. I'm getting a couple thousand followers on Instagram, and I have the idea to make official drop. Like, okay, we're doing stickers. Why don't we actually take this to the next level and we make clothing? And then the level after that would be like making YouTube videos. And so the idea that I had was, let's take this to the next level. Let's start making clothing. Let's start making stickers that are bigger. I asked for a vinyl cutter for Christmas, and I got a vinyl cutter. And I did a whole bunch of research on different distributors and different people, because it's pretty much like drop shipping at this point, where like I didn't hold any of the inventory. I built the entire website out, got all the merch on there, all the stickers. We had jet tags, and I had a distributor who distributed everything. I just bought, one of everything for it to take pictures of for marketing, and then I just had everything else drop ship basically. And we officially launched IDGAS. We dropped the crew. We're like, it's no longer a small group of individuals. This is actually a large worldwide event To probably the peak of it, we had again a couple thousand followers on Instagram, and maybe like 1,000 or two on YouTube. I'm not exactly sure. Let's see. We had some people. I know we had some people in other states, and we had a couple in other countries. We had a ton in other states. I actually flew to California to meet one of our members who was living in California at the time, and it really became this big old thing, to the point where I had LLC open for IDGAS. Actually, all of my team members got it tattooed on them as well. So I had a team of 5 core individuals who would help me package everything. And we did 4 official drops over the course of, I think, 2 years. And to the highest point is we released a product, and I think I made like $2,100 in profit from that launch in 24 hours, which was pretty freaking sick to me. One of the lessons that I learned at this point was that money, as quick as it can come, it can go. I didn't grow up in the worst case scenario ever, but we were always very money conscious in my household. As in, if you wanted something, it was how much was it? Can you afford it? No, you can't afford it. We need to save for XYZ. So once I started making a little bit of money, again, I'm 18 at this point. I just started my first year of college, which again, I did not want to go to. I told my mom I want to do YouTube full time. I want to take IDGAS to the next level. I don't want to go to college, but she filled out the application for me and sent it in. And there I was at the dorms, ready to go to college. So I'm in college. I'm trying to build this business. I'm building a crazy stance car, which is super unreliable. And it was actually called my mom bought me, and she did not approve of any of it. So my relationship with her is starting to really get thin because we're having fights about the car. I'm having fights because I'm not really paying attention to my classes. I'm building IDGAS. I'm trying to come up with new ideas, new designs. I'm spending all of my late nights packaging up the boxes, shipping things out. And I realized very quickly that $2,100 in profit after you take the team out on dinners and you give free merch out to people and you have all the operating expenses of a clothing business goes very quickly. Another thing that happened is I brought some people into my team who I thought had the best intentions, and unfortunately they took some actions the wrong way. As I started to expand, I started to grow and venture out into other teams and other people in the community who had a higher status, you could call it, in the car game, which just means that like their cars were more expensive and they spent more money on their cars than we did, because we were like the hood rich guys. But like, as if you could call it that, like that's what we were. And then these were the guys who like actually had, you know, full-time jobs, really made big boy money and put big boy money into their cars. And we all had like the part-time, still living with their parents, or like in my case, I was the only one in college and I was not working a job at all. So I was just like scrap buy with what I can, Jimmy rig shit on the car to try to find it as cheap as possible. And I ended up making friends with these people because I saw it as a huge opportunity for, they had a brand as well. And my brand, I was like, let's link up together. Let's make this happen and let's really blow this up. And so when I did that, a couple of my partners at IDGAS took that the wrong way. They thought I was selling out. They thought I was trying to leave them behind and kind of move on to a different group of individuals, which was obviously not the case. I was just trying to expand. And so because of that, they had a little more weight in the car community than I did. Because again, guys, you have to remember, I'm the kind of person who never really fit in anywhere to begin with. I was always just kind of there. And these people who were already in the car scene, probably 3 or 4 years when I joined, right? So people already knew them. People didn't know me. They just thought of me as the rich white kid who lived in Nashville, which they couldn't be farther from the truth, but obviously that's what they saw. And so when these partners of mine started kind of dragging my name through the dirt and kind of just like really dragging IDGAS, and they would go around and they'd rip stickers off of other cars and they were talking really mad shit about it, and they even had more followers than I had and then the business had. And so I realized this was going to be a huge problem automatically. And I tried to push through it. I tried to do one more drop, and that drop did not make a single dollar of profit. And that's kind of when I knew that it was time to move on and to kind of go another route with my life. And so we officially said goodbye to IDGAS. I officially closed down the LLC. I closed down our websites. I made a thank you post on the Instagram and closed it out, which was a huge part of my life. And I learned a lot of lessons because of it, which I'm super grateful for. And a lot of things that I learned have helped me be successful in my career now. But that was something that was really like my first real business, and it was 100%, my baby. and to have to shut it down and close it down because of a poor decision that I made really hurt at the time. And I still have my tattoo, of course. A lot of people ask me, why don't you get it covered up? Because I think it's a great message. The message of IDGAS was, I don't give a shit what you think of me, what you think of my car, what you think of the way I do XYZ. I'm gonna do my thing. IDGAS was a group for inclusivity. It was a group where other loners like myself could find refuge in the team and the community that I built. And unfortunately, that just didn't get to see the full maturity that I think it could have. But again, it was nothing but a amazing stepping stone into the next part of my life, which I guess you can call this point, and I know we're running on 35 minutes here, but I guess you can call this point just the middle ground. At this point, I'm still building cars, I'm going to college, I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. I'm super miserable. I start to go into this really dark, really horrible mental state. I officially move out of my mom's house for the first time, and I moved probably 45 minutes away from family to go to a public school, a public college, because I was going to a private college at the time. And I talk about butting heads, guys. I would get in arguments with the students, I'd get in arguments with the teachers, because I was just a depressed kid who just lost his business. And pretty much all my friends, guys, like, you don't understand, like, my entire social community was based around IDGAS. And when I lost it, I had threats. I had people who threatened me. And when I would go to these car meets that I used to be the king of, like, I would show up and I used to explain that I was like a small niche micro celebrity. Like, people would tap on my shoulder at Walmart and be like, hey, are you Slam Jam? Oh my God, I love you, BRZ, dude. Like, IDGAS, let's go. And to the point where I'd pull up to these car meets and people would surround my car and be like, IDGAS, let's go, James, what's up, man? And want to be my friends, to the point where when I pulled up to a car meet, people would swarm my car. I didn't know if it was to vandalize or to beat me up. And that was a really sharp turning point. And at that point, I pretty much stopped going to any car scenes. I really lost all my friends except for one who I met at this point. And me and Sage were kind of drifting apart years ago because he was doing his whole videography thing. He blew up very quickly, and IDGAS just couldn't catch up. And so naturally, as you grow out of your friend groups. And so I didn't really hang out with him anymore. I didn't have any friends at college. I had one friend who lived an hour away from me, and that was kind of it. He was the only person who stuck with me through IDGAS. And just really spiraled into this really dark place. I was able to thankfully meet a couple other cool people who gave me some moments of light and gave me some moments of clarity. I remember when I had first moved into my apartment, it's about an hour away from where I'm at now, I had these really dark nights and dark moments of just loneliness, I think. And it had been maybe a year after the whole IDGAS thing had kind of fallen apart. You know, I was still just in college. I wasn't making any money at all. Wasn't doing anything. I wasn't fulfilling my purpose. And it took me to a really dark place. I was alone. I was lonely. And I felt like I didn't have a real support team. I obviously couldn't talk to my family about it because they were all traditional education, and that's not what I wanted to do. So every single time I tried to have a conversation about it, it would just be, yeah, but you still have to go to college. Yeah, but you still have to do this thing. It's important. Luckily, around this time, I met my wife now, my girlfriend at the time. Her name is Angie, and she was like the light of my world. Still is to this day, and she really helped me get through these hard months that I had, as just being a companion for me. And it was hard at times, you know, me and her trying to figure it out, but we figured it out. Obviously, we're married now in a happy married relationship. Actually, this weekend will be our 1 year anniversary of being married, so congrats to us. And I started to pick things back up. I got a job at a car wash where people would come up to me and I would try to sell them the car wash memberships. I'm sure you guys have been to those before. And I would work there day in and day out in between going to college still. At this point, I had lowered my college hours to just part-time because I was like, look, I gotta make some money. Maybe if I just make some money somehow, that would make me happy. And so I worked at the car wash. It was an outside job, so it doesn't matter how hot it was or how cold it was. If you live in Nashville, you understand that the summers are very much summer and the winters are very much winter, and you get 2 weeks of pleasant. So I worked there for about a full year, and I remember one of these main moments, which I'm telling you guys, stick with me just for a few more minutes. I'm about to get to some of the key moments that led me to where I'm at now. I remember one of these key moments where I was sleeping at my wife's house at the time. It was right before like someone in the house alarm went off, whether it was her brother or her dad's, because she used to live with her parents at the time also. And it was like probably 5 a.m. and I just had this like out of body experience where it was just like, holy shit, like this is gonna be the rest of my life. And I just saw myself day after day after day going to the car wash and sweating my ass off, selling car wash packages, getting yelled at by customers, having to be told when I can take a shit and when I can piss. And I just saw that for the rest of my life, and I just really realized that that can't be my story. And I think out of the entire arc of my life, that was the moment, that was the last grain of sand on the scale that tipped me and pushed me towards the life that I'm building now. That is what we call the pain line, where the pain of staying the same was so much worse than the pain of changing that it forced me to change. The activation energy had been put into me finally to actually make a substantial change, to change all of the decisions that I have made up to the point, to rewrite all the failures and the setbacks and all the disappointments. That moment was the moment that finally gave me enough power to make a move. Shortly after that, I made the decision to get my real estate license. This was obviously a super crazy decision because, as you know, real estate is an entrepreneur 100%. You are a business owner when you're a realtor. And I only knew one realtor, and he was, relatively successful doing it. And of course, it made it look easy. So I told Angie, hey, I'm gonna get my real estate license. I told my mom, I'm gonna get my real estate license. She said, cool, just make sure you stay in school. I said, okay, well, I'll do it part-time. So I got my real estate license, and 6 months went by, and I had literally done every single freaking thing I could do to get a deal, and I had not had one deal closed yet, not one. I haven't even talked to a couple clients yet. I hosted open houses every single weekend. I door knocked neighborhoods. I texted every single contact on my phone, and I had not had a single client come close to closing yet. And it was getting to that point where maybe this is just IDGAS all over again. Maybe it's a great idea. Maybe done differently in another life, it would have been successful. But, maybe I'm just not that guy. Maybe I'm just not that guy. Maybe I do need to pay more attention in college, and I need to not just cheat my way through it, and I need to show up to classes because this obviously isn't going to work out for me. It's been 6 months. And keep in mind, I'm trying to juggle college. I'm trying to juggle having a girlfriend. I'm trying to juggle working a job. I was working 35 hours a week at the car wash, and now I'm trying to be a realtor as well. Till one day I was at the car wash, and I was scrolling on my phone, and I saw some Cuban guy yelling at for sale by owners on the phone. And I had hit the pain line again, where the fear and the pain of staying the same was so much worse than the pain of making an extreme change. And I'll pause right here and say, I am an extremely skeptical individual. I do not trust anything I read online. I do not trust anything I see online. You better give me the source, and I better be able to Google it and find 5 different reputable articles about it to be true and for me to believe it. So when I saw this dude online saying, hey, slide up and I can teach you how to cold call, I thought, okay, I have to give this a shot. I have to at least try this, because what else have I to lose? I've done everything but cold call. So I went on, I signed up, I booked a call with this guy, and he called me right after. And he said, hey, James. I said, yeah, this is James. He said, James, this is actually Alexis Valladares at the Valladares Real Estate Academy. How's it going? And my mind had blown away. This is a dude who had like 120,000 followers, and he just called me. And this is him. Like, this is not like a sales rep or anything like that. Like, this is this guy. And so I was like, hey, yeah, what's up, dude? Like, I'm not gonna lie, I was super fanboyed out. And he was like, hey man, I saw you just came in. He made me fill out a questionnaire. And I haven't made any money from real estate. I was making probably $5,000 a month at the car wash. I was one of the top sales reps a month. But again, that's just how painful it was, and that's how much purpose I knew I had in my life, because I didn't change that yet, right? Like, I even though I was making $5,000 a month at the car wash consistently, I was spending it because my identity was not in alignment with someone who was making that kind of money. So I was really coming out of net zero every single month, which is what happens when you're out of alignment. And so I said, look, Alexis, please give me a shot, man. Like, I may not have the most money, I may not have the most time because I'm working a car wash job and I'm in college, but I have to find a way to make this happen. Please, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And he said, okay, cool. No worries, man. I can help you. Let's hop on a Zoom call, tomorrow or whatever it was, and let's talk. So I said, okay, hell yeah, let's go. And I remember I talked to Angie and I said, okay, Angie, I think I'm about to hire a coach. I'd never done this before. This is a random stranger who I have no idea who this person is. And I'm very skeptical of this guy. But I think I'm going to do it because I don't know what else to do. And I'm stuck and I'm lost. And I have to find a way to make this happen. Otherwise, I'm scared that I'm going to be like this the rest of my life. And she said, do what you feel like is best. And if you don't have enough money for it, tell me and I'll pay for it. And that was, I'm going to marry this woman, which I did. Then I talked to a couple of my other friends who are in real estate. And here was another great example of the doubters in my life, where they said, no, you don't need a coach. Give it 6 more months. You haven't gone hard enough. You haven't tried enough. I did a coach before. It didn't work out for me. And these are people whose opinions I really cared about. People I really looked up to in the car scene, and then also as successful real estate agents. I really looked up to these guys. And so when they said that to me, I was like, well, shit, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I shouldn't hire a coach. Maybe I shouldn't find a mentor who can help me with this. Maybe I should just keep doing what I'm doing. And my God, I am glad I didn't listen to them. Listen to me. If you have a vision and you have an idea of what your life can be like, and you are finding a way to grasp that, you grasp it. You don't listen to what other people have to say. You don't need to concern yourself with that. You find it and you grasp it. And this was my light at the end of the tunnel. Someone who can promise me that he can help me through this, finally. Someone who seems like he's in my corner, finally. So I hopped on the call with this guy, had a great conversation, came down to it, and I pulled the trigger. And I made an extremely uncomfortable investment into myself, because that's what it was, into myself and into my business. I spent the last couple $1,000s that I had on a complete stranger because I knew that I was going to do whatever it took to get out of this position. I was not going to go another 6 months in the same boat I was in. So regardless of this individual or not, which I know he can help me because of the way he communicates, I am going to find a way to make the best out of this. On that call, I told Alexis, hey, we've had a great conversation, man. I feel like in another life, we'd be friends. And you know what he said to me? Why not this life? Which is crazy because if you know anything about my life now, Lex is actually one of my best friends in the entire world. And I run the entire academy. That would have never happened if I didn't take the risk on myself. That would have never happened if I listened to the people who doubted on me. You don't understand, my life would have been on a different path if I had listened to people who thought they knew best for me and who wanted the best for me. So I joined the academy and I immediately start cold calling the next day, having no idea how to do it, because just like the IDGAS idea, when I had the idea, I made the Instagram account, I took that first action. I knew if I want to be successful here, I'm going to have to do the same exact thing. So I started cold calling the very next day, and the very next day, we had our first group coaching session. We're on the group coaching session and said, okay, I'm going to quit my job in 30 days, and I'm going to do my best to save as much money as possible so I can spend 100% of my time focusing on real estate. And one of the people on that call said, why 30 days, man? Why not now? And I thought, oh my God, this dude's challenging me. This is my first call. Guys, remember, at this point in my life, I was super anxious when it comes to groups of individuals because I've been outed my entire life. I have not fit in with anybody my entire life. My best friend in middle school left me to dry in high school. My very best friends who I got matching tattoos with turned their back on me and slandered my name and drug it through the dirt. So at this point, guys, I didn't trust anybody anymore. I was so nervous and anxious in this community with people, and this guy just freaking challenged me in front of everyone and said, why don't you quit your job now? He said, real savages will quit their job right now. Because you know what's going to happen in 30 days, James? In 30 days, another bill is going to come up. Something's going to break. You're going to have to pay for something else. And then you're going to say, another 30 days. And then guess what? You never quit your job. And I said, I don't know, man. And Alexa said, yeah, you know what? He's right. James, we challenge you to quit your job right now. And so you know what I did? I called my boss. I said, I'm done. And I went all in on real estate. I had maybe a month of savings. And I went all in on real estate. I had an apartment. I had softwares. I had a girlfriend to take on dates. And I went all in on the one thing that was promised to make you money. Because here's the secret, guys. Anything will make you successful if you focus 100% of your energy on it for long enough. Fast forward a little bit, because this is the boring, repetitive stuff, which I will talk about more in depth, but I don't want this to be 100% like a sales thing. I learned how to cold call and communicate at a very high level. Started getting deals picked up, didn't close all of the deals, which was more setbacks, more devastations. At this point, school's about to start again. This entire real estate journey had taken place from one summer to the next. And when I joined with Alexis, it was the start of the summer. And now we're about at the end of the summer, so it's been about 2 months. And I just got a listing on the contract. I haven't sold it yet. And school's about to start. And I thought to myself, does spending less time on the activity make me more successful at the activity? Because I was going to have 3 days a week that I wasn't going to be able to cold call. And what happens if someone calls me at school? What am I supposed to do? What if a client needs to see a house during the moment of school days? This was one of the hardest decisions I ever made in my life, because I was extremely financially dependent on my mother at the time. Every single other person in my family was traditional education, and I actually had 2 entrepreneurs in my family who weren't the most successful. I'll just say it how it is. My dad being one of them. He has a music production career, which now he's been able to make it something awesome, where he teaches people and he helps other young music producers figure it out. But I think, I guess at the time when he was with my mom, maybe things weren't like that. I honestly don't know the full story, but it obviously traumatized my mom very badly, and she was very, very turned off and very traumatized to the entire thought of an entrepreneur. So me and her used to always get in these arguments all through high school. I want to stop full-time to do IDGAS. I want to stop full-time to do YouTube. I want to do this, that, and the other. I don't want to go to college. And we'd get in these big arguments, and we'd cry, and we'd fight, and I'd eventually stay in school. I was watching this YouTube video, and it was talking about the anxiety and the decisions that we make, and how the feeling of anxiety is when you think about something is because you need to make a decision and you're not making. I told Angie, I was like, I think I'm going to quit school. And she said, okay, I got your back. I'll support you. I need you to go sit in your room and think about this decision and make a decision on this. And so I went in there, I sat in my room, and I just thought about it, and I decided that it's time. And I picked up the phone right then and there, and I called my mom, and I said, I'm gonna quit school. And of course she was upset. She, raised her voice at me, said, okay, then I'm not gonna pay for your stuff. I'm not gonna help cover your apartment. Because remember, guys, at this point I hadn't had a job anymore, and I haven't closed a deal yet either. So I was kind of just asking my mom for money in turn to stay in school. So now that I said I'm not going to school anymore, she said, okay, I'm going to pull the plug on all your finances. I have apartment to pay for, I have girlfriend, I have a car, I have gas, all these things. And I said, okay, that's fine. You tell me what this means for you, and that's all I need to do. And I think just her realizing that I know what this means, and I know the decision and the weight of the decision I'm making, made her feel more comfortable, because immediately after that, she was kind of like, okay, well, I'll think about it and I'll let you know. Then I called my dad, whose relationship was strained already for a lot of other reasons, and told him that I'm going to quit school. That obviously wasn't a happy conversation either. But I knew I had made the right decision. Here's where things started to get even crazier. 2 to 3 months after that, I called them both back and I said, I'm going to get married. As a 23-year-old, I'm going to get married to a woman who I've only known for a year and a half at this point. Maybe less, to be honest. That was when my dad told me that he was disappointed in me and disappointed in all the decisions that I've made. And that really hurt, because I grew up with just my mom, And my mom was very lovey, affectionate. I'm proud of you. I love you. You're doing great. And my dad was very much not that. He was amazing, and he was a great man and a great father. And one thing that you didn't get out of him for free was I'm proud of you. That man held those I'm proud of yous until he really meant it. And so naturally, there wasn't much to be proud of growing up. Be proud of me learning how to kickflip. That wasn't a word that I heard a whole bunch of growing up, or at least to my perspective and to my little ears, that wasn't. Again, I don't want you to take this the wrong way and think that I hate my dad. We actually have an amazing relationship now. But this was a hard point and a hard time where I had to take the steps into becoming my own person and becoming my own man and rewiring my brain with the decisions that my family and my parents have put into us, because we're trained that our parents should be our idols and we should listen to every single word that they say. But the truth is that we shouldn't. You should only listen to people who have what you want in the perspective area. And my parents didn't have the business or the financial career that I wanted. And so I realized I can't keep listening to them about business and financial decisions. So obviously I make that decision. They still come out to the wedding. They have a great time. Relationship with dad is rocky. Relationship with mom is definitely rocky. Relationship with everyone is kind of just rocky, to be honest, as far as family goes. Really, at this point, I had lost any friends that I had left from the car scene. All love to those people, but I knew that unfortunately I had to grow into a new circle of people in order to continue to grow my business and my life. And so I had to say goodbye to a lot of those friends as well, which just really hurts and still something that pains me to this day. So all I really had was Angie, to be honest, and our cat, Luna. And I got a couple deals closed. Finally, I made a little bit of money, not much to talk of. Got some for sale by owners, closed them. Was able to actually put together $9 million worth of real estate 6 months after joining Alexis. Again, not all of it closed, but I'm still proud of myself for that because it was all through cold calling. Then the next decision was put in front of me, which was to join the academy and to again leave everything that I'd known before, because this will require full-time attention, and to transition into another group. I had learned at this point that coaching, training, doing stuff like that was something that I love and something that I want to do for the rest of my life, and I had tried to do it on my own at this point, but Alexis offered me the opportunity to join him as one of his sales reps to teach me how to coach. Because I had told him, I was like, hey, I'm just pay you and you just teach me how to do it. And he said, well, instead of paying me, how about you just come do it for me, and I will pay you to do it, basically. But it requires you to be full-time, and you can't do real estate anymore. And so as I just started to get some success from real estate, I realized that I'm gonna have to make a pivot again. And it took 4 times of him calling me, and then I finally said yes, because this was someone who had not led me astray yet, and someone who was been a mentor for me and been there for me. So I thought, again, what the hell, man, what's the worst thing that could happen? He hasn't led me astray so far. So I said, let's go, let's get it. And I made the jump to be one of his sales reps. At this point, guys, the business was rocky. There was some bad leadership, unfortunately, and I went another 3 or 4 months without making $1 from the academy. As a newly married couple, we moved back in with my mother because I just couldn't pay rent. I just couldn't pay my expenses anymore. I had to face everybody and say, I am struggling, I'm not making money. And I moved back in with my mother. Angie said she got my back. She said, she'd lived with me under a bridge, and I was determined to make sure that didn't happen, but it was looking bleak. I had some very frustrating moments, but I always knew if I worked my absolute hardest at this, I will be presented with the opportunity, because before you have the things, you have to act like you have it. And so through this entire time, I always acted like the multimillionaire that I knew I could be before I even had a couple $100 in my bank account. I built this entire system and these entire spreadsheets that the Academy now run on entirely because of what my dad had taught me that one summer when he taught me how to build a spreadsheet. I put that together to build an entire spreadsheet, and that's when Alexis started to really recognize that, hey, maybe there's more to this guy than just being a sales rep. I think I'm very advanced at sales, but obviously he recognized another potential in me as an operator. And it was right around that 3 to 4 month point where he came to me and opened up another opportunity to me to be the COO of the Academy and to be essentially part owner and run the entire business for him. As he wanted to step back and focus more on content and focus more on growing the brand side of things, he needed someone to run the business side of things. And this time it didn't take so much convincing. I said, hell fucking yeah, let's get it. Which leads us pretty much right up to where I'm at now. My first month joining the Academy, I took us from consistently making $70,000 a month to making $115,000 my very first month in the Academy. After that, I decided to completely lean out the business. It did take us down a good bit because I wanted to completely rebuild the entire principles and systems and team and every single thing that we had. I wanted to rebuild it. So we rebuilt it, and we had a couple months of some hardship. We had a couple months of losing team members. We always stayed afloat. We always made profit. We were consistently making more money than the last. But I was able to completely lean it out. And now when we make money and we profit, we actually really profit, which is a great business lesson that I was able to learn very quickly, which is it's not cool and fancy to say that, oh, I make XYZ a month if you had to spend the same amount to make it. That kind of leads me to where we're at now, guys. This is something that, I spend hours on a day. And when I first became the COO, I spent 16 to 18 hours a day working on it, building it, rebuilding it, fixing the systems, trying to find ways to grow it and grow it and grow it and grow it. So this is not an easy gig. Everything that I do now, I learned from my past experience and from paying more mentors. I continue to pay mentors. I continue to pay people to teach me how to do this. It's led me to a position where I can buy one of my favorite cars, which is not like, it's not crazy, but I was able to buy, Lexus RC sports car, which is a car that I've always really loved, all by myself at 23, been able to move into an apartment again, finally move my wife into an apartment, put her in a position where she doesn't have to work anymore. She can just focus on being the best wife she can be in and give back a little bit to my family. Really the reason why I've always done this, because as I've explored, of course it started as like, hey, I want to make money, but then it's like, I want to take care of my people and I want to make sure that they're taken care of. And I want to give back to every single person who invested into me, And so my mission won't be done yet until I have millions and millions of dollars in the bank account and have completely changed my family's entire bloodline. And I know it will happen because of anything that I've learned from my life and all the setbacks and all the disappointments and everybody who doubted me is that I can push through and I will find a way to make it happen. And so thank you for spending the last hour with me. You truly, truly means the world. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that you enjoyed learning a little bit more about me. And if you want to see this journey unfold in front of you, please feel free to subscribe. Feel free to leave a comment with anything that you resonated with or anything that you thought would be helpful. I'm going to make more videos, obviously more in depth about what I do, more business lessons, just more day in the life stuff. I know this was a little bit more of a longer, harder, harsh video, but I wanted to be super honest and come clean about my life, where I've been at, and what led me to this position now. If you guys want to know anything more in depth, please let me know. Again, guys, I don't want you to watch this as a sign of like, oh my God, I made it and I'm showing you guys how to do it. This is a $400 watch. This is not a Rollie, but you best believe it will be in a little bit. I'm also on another journey to get a six-pack, which is something I've never had my entire life. Growing up, my dad had to teach me how to jump with a helmet because I was extremely unathletic and he was scared I was going to fall over. He had to teach me how to run. He had to teach me how to do anything activity-wise because I was so unathletic. So that is something that I've always wanted to do, and I'm currently on a journey to do that, get a six-pack by 2026. It's 100% doable. My main mission and my main journey here, aside from the six pack, is to, again, be able to set my family up and change their life forever. I know there's people who have done it out there, and I know I'm going to be one of them who's going to do it. And it's not going to happen by sitting back and not talking about it. Thank you for spending the last hour with me. And I'm super looking forward to seeing you guys in the next video and continuing this conversation. Talk soon. Peace.